where the sincerity comes into it?
I try to understand your question. Your question is it possible that a person would be able to identify these 4 dimensions in a totally insincere way?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I understand this perfectly because, Weiming has made the observation that some of the great ideas, when they are manifested in concrete human situation in politics inside, they may become extremely sinister, extremely disastrous for human survival or flourishing. The assumption is that all great ideas, God, can be not just politicized, can be abused. But I want to find an example, maybe you can give me one, and how this, we call the broad and integrated humanistic vision of the importance of the self, the community, earth, and heaven, trying to develop a more balanced and integrated vision, can be politicized in a way that the original intent of giving a comprehensive humanism is totally lost. I will try to find and try to think, but I think it's a very challenging question.
1 minute, wait, Sheila.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. I come from the field of international politics and moving towards the field of Occidental studies. Now, within these 2 fields, we deal with the issues of negotiation, we deal with the issue of bargaining, constructive engagement. And thus, there is always the need to look for different methods of engagement. And dialogue presents a way to be able to engage better. So I do thank you for the very quick review in the beginning on Socrates' method, Confucius' method, dialectical, as well as your introduction to this, maybe we call this the Weiming approach to dialogue. My question specifically would be this. What would be the needed ingredient besides tolerance, as you mentioned just now, that could increase the possibility that dialogue could be would be accepted as a method of engagement? Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
My only complaint is that international negotiation or the Occidental studies, the method, whether you call it negotiation or constructive engagement and so forth, is often shaped by instrumental rationality. In other words, what is the best strategy? How can we do it? How can we be persuasive? How can we be able to allow the other to feel comfortable while getting the maximum return for this negotiation? I'm quite aware of these kind of issues. But what I'm trying to do now is say beyond that. Even Habermas talk about the communicative rationality, not just instrumental. So beyond that, we now, it's necessary to find a way of living together. So tolerance is a minimum condition. Recognition. I think Palestine and Israel, despite all this conflict and tension, right now we definitely, out of necessity, realize that Israel cannot wish that Palestine just disappear and vice versa. So recognition, some kind of recognition. But recognition without respect is not going to enhance the dialogue. For example, if we enter into a negotiation and I treat my partner simply as an instrument to be shaped, not as an end in itself, but as a means to an end or something, with no respect, that's not good enough. With respect, then there's the possibility of mutual reference. I want to engage in this because I want to not only enhance my ability to listen and broaden my horizon, but also I want to have this reference for my own self-understanding. With mutual reference, there will be mutual learning. And I think these ingredients are interconnected, and they have to be accommodated in the whole process.
One.
Thank you very much.
delegates from United Nations. There was this President Ahmadinejad addressing. And in the audience, there was everybody, including America, France, England, and the rest of the world. Very early in his speech, one by one, the French left, and then the Englishmen left, followed by the Americans. The rest stayed. At the end of this address, there was a big clap from the rest of the world. My perception is those three countries are not ready for dialogue. The important issue was NPT, Non-Proliferating Treaty, that affects the whole of mankind. Do you think, Prof, that with the issue of Iran and the rest of the world, these three countries who are in the Security Council are ready for dialogue? When I checked on the other channel, my favorite channel really, CNN and BBC, there was none. I happened to switch on Al Jazeera when my wife was asleep. So I found this man was talking. So my perception is that dialogue is not in their vocabulary. They left very early. So please, can you say something about those happenings? It's quite dangerous for me to think further than that. Thank you very much.
Permit me not to get involved with a political debate, whether it's politically correct or not correct. Or I don't want to become in politics.
You want to be very Confucius?
No, I think if you consider Confucian approach is simply compromise, that's wrong. And the Confucian approach, as the questioner earlier, is not a simple-minded approach. And I don't want to get into a simple-minded political debate. And I'm not going to comment on the choice of these three people that decided to leave. And of course, when I gave a lecture, not to mention any other friends, a lot of people leave in the middle. So I don't condemn them for not being dialogical. But I think you raised a very, I just want to answer one question. As an American, I think that's probably important. And I became naturalized American citizen in 1976. America is, in a way, a dialogical civilization. And we have to analyze the whole thing historically. A very important learning civilization, from the Confucian point of view. And the Americans learn from England, its language, literature, and even law. Learn from France for its idea of liberty and idea of government. Learn from Germany, science and technology. America has been a great learning civilization. But after the Second World War, when America became powerful, that's something I worry about China, right? America became powerful, and America preoccupied, sort of occupied Japan. And from a learning civilization, then transformed itself into a teaching civilization. I decided to teach everybody how to be proper. Right? And this process has been disastrous for America. Not disastrous for America because of American power strength, but disastrous for the American soul. And I'll give you one example. After 9/11, everybody was sympathetic to what actually happened in New York. So I think especially the people in the European community, they said immediately after 9/11, we became very, very sympathetic to the American dilemma. And even some Chinese intellectuals say, tonight we are Americans. They put on the web. But 2 or 3 years later, everybody hated America. Even in France, in Germany, in all these times. Because America missed the great chance to be dialogical, to return to the great spirit of America as a place that open to all races. Still America is one of the great immigrant societies in the world. And for people from East Asia, say from China, to try to establish ourselves in Germany or France, in England, and try to survive or to flourish, very difficult. America is an exception. This, I think, continues to be a great immigrant society. But what Bush did was his total inability to understand the deep, rich resource of America as a biological civilization, and use unilateralism, and even involving the whole country into a kind of unhealthy, actually destructive nationalism and patriotism. And only in the last half a year, that situation began to change. And I'm not saying Obama is a great hero, whether he deserved a Nobel Prize or not. That's not the question. But I think clearly there's a major change from unilateralism to multilateralism. And the change may not be sincere. The change may be dictated by forces from all kinds, but I think there's a definitive change. And I certainly identify myself with that change as possible. So originally, I mentioned Iran just for one thing. Originally, at the suggestion of our sponsor, Dr. Lam, and he proposed something like not a research project, like a way of thinking, using my idea of biological civilization, then colon, a path to a peace. A path to a peace was actually the term that Nuri Yamam, who is a great scholar in Turkey studies, used. Biological civilization, colon, path to a peace with Iran. And hopefully this will be a way of engaging Americans to talk about this issue. But I think the time is not right. And the question is too complicated. And you remember his speech at Columbia. You remember he gave a speech at Columbia University, and the president almost lost his job. And so the president, in order to try not to lose too much face, because he already accepted freedom of speech is an American culture, and spent about half an hour criticizing as a speaker and denouncing. And his that response was quite engaging and quite interesting. And I think that the president of Columbia didn't appear to be very intelligent in that action.
1 minute. Yes, I give it to you. Then I'm going to move to this side.
Thank you very much, Professor Du. 谢谢你刚才的那个讲座啊。Okay, just now you mentioned about the May 4th movement, 五四运动 which brought about great changes to China from a very I should say the superstitions, okay, to a modern China, to a lot of learning from the best of the best from Western countries. Okay, my question is, in view of the great growth of great economic growth of China at the moment, okay, do you think that the West is learning from China? If yes, what are the countries and in what areas? Thank you very much.
Term. If you try to differentiate, first, Western European countries, North American, and Nordic countries, in general, the West is still not very responsive. Culturally, economically, they have to do something because it's a direct threat. Culturally, the West, especially in the great universities and academies, is still very insensitive to what has been changing, not only in China, but in East Asia, in Southeast Asia, in India, in other words, in Asia. I think it will take a while to catch up. It's so difficult for someone who becomes a lecturer, a teacher, and then to have to force to sit down and listen. It's very difficult. You really have to cultivate it. So that's, I think, it's still the situation. But China